and welcome to JVLJ News. My name is Logan Olson, and I'm here in the newsroom with my co-anchor Bethany Samuel.
Thank you, Logan. Tonight we are going to be talking about the recent news and tensions between many countries during the ongoing Cold War. We will start with Logan giving you a report on some recent information about the U-2 spy planes.
Thank you, Bethany. We all know about the risky decision of our President Dwight Eisenhower proposing that the U.S. and the Soviets should be able to fly planes over each other's territory. With that information being passed to the Soviets, they stopped us with a cold hard no. Now, for safety precautions, we started, on this day in the United States, we started sending planes and U-2 planes over Russia to observe them and monitor what their actions are. So this is a memorial for the pilot that was killed and captured during that incident. And now, to bring you back up to speed, is our news reporter, Jenna Maru.
In tribute to the Gulf of Tonkin incident that happened this day, August 2nd, 1964, we will be having a segment about Vietnam. The Gulf of Tonkin is a body of water that lies east of the North Vietnam and west coast of the Han Islands. August 2nd, the MADAPS was conducting a mission on purpose. The purpose of this mission was to collect intelligence on the radar and coastal defenses of North Vietnam. The North Vietnamese then sent torpedo boats and attacked the MADAPS. USS Condora sent aircraft to repel the North Vietnamese attackers and sunk one boat and damaging other vessels. On August 7th, 1964, the resolution gave broad congressional approval for expansion of the Vietnam War. Ho Chi Minh was the leader of Vietnam during this time. Our president was Lyndon Johnson. Once Nixon took office, he introduced what was called Vietnamization, that was aimed to end American involvement in the Vietnam War by transferring all military responsibilities to South Vietnam. Many Americans didn't want war. On January 31st, 1968, North Viet Congress launched a Tet Offensive, a coordinate of series of fused attacks over 100 cities and towns in South Vietnam. Some of the attackers were from Viet Cong, members of communist guerrilla movement in the Vietnam. Back to you, Logan, in the news.
That's right, Jenna. Now, to remind you about the Berlin Wall that was built in Germany a few years ago. We all hopefully know the story. Communist Soviets controlling East Germany built a barbed wire and concrete wall in one astonishing night. What some people might not know is that there were some Germans that were trying to escape this wall. Some people jumped over it, some people dug under it, and some people even went in hot air balloons and flew over the wall. The Communist Soviets that were controlling and guarding the wall were told that if anyone was to try to cross it, that they were to shoot them on sight. This is yet another act that was separating our countries and creating tensions during the Cold War. Now back to Jenna and our other reporter, Jordan Hoffman, for your daily weather report. And after that, over to Bethany for some missile crisis information.
Good morning, Madagascar. So today it will be 75 degrees and the sky will be clear. For tomorrow, it will be sunny with rain. It will be 82 degrees. And then it will be 71 and still rainy. Back to you.
Now over to Bethany with some historical information on the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Thanks, Jordan and Jenna, for that weather update. Today we will look into the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis was 13 days on the borderline of a nuclear war. The Soviet Union had secretly stationed nuclear weapons in Cuba. When the United States found out about them, they immediately demanded their removal. The United States was already on bad terms with Cuba because of the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs was when CIA-financed and trained groups of Cuban refugees landed in Cuba and attempted to topple the communist government operated by Cuban dictator Fidel Castro. The United States President John F. Kennedy was first in charge of this plan. The Bay of Pigs operation failed miserably. When that happened, Castro became extremely close with Russian leader Khrushchev. The United States and Soviets each had nuclear weapons. The Soviet Union had theirs in Cuba, and we had ours hidden in Turkey. Cuba was very close to parts of the U.S., and Turkey was very close to parts of the Soviet Union. Kennedy announced that the Soviets had planted nuclear weapons in Cuba. In response, the United States put up a blockade around Cuba to prevent any other offensive weapons from entering Cuba. That's all we have today on the Cuban Missile Crisis. Thanks for listening. Now over to Logan with some interesting information about the space race.
That's correct, Bethany. This race for space all began with the surprising arms race, where the United States and, you guessed it, the Soviet Union were at each other again, trying to create bigger and better weapons for each other and to use against each other. And this technological advancement between the countries led to the creation of space equipment that could send objects, animals, and eventually humans into space. Later, the U.S. was the first to send people to the moon. We will see how this information develops into the future. We now go to Jordan, who will be giving you some information on the Korean War.
Thank you, Logan. Some developing information on Korea is that 38th parallel is a circle of latitude that is 38 degrees north of the Earth's equator. The Korean demilitarized zone is a strip of land running across the Korean peninsula that is a buffer zone between North Communist Korea and South Capitalist Korea. In the 1950s, North Korea invaded South Korea in several points along the two countries. The DMZ led to the outbreak of the Korean War. The United Nations Security Council has put down North Korea's actions as a breach of the peace and has called for immediate ceasefire. 2 days after North Korea invaded South Korea, the United Nations approved for the U.S. to intervene with military force to help South Korea. North Korea had China helping them fight. The stalemate came between the UN and China, and a ceasefire agreement was put into place, which is still in place to this day. We are now sent back to Logan for our last story of the night, the USSR invasion of Afghanistan.
Yes, Jordan. There has been some new information anonymously passed to the JVLJ news station about Afghanistan. We all know the story about how Afghanistan was going to the Soviets when they needed help. And the Soviets, in return, used Afghanistan to counter our alliances with Pakistan. But apparently the new news is that the Soviets are also in Afghanistan for other reasons, such as trading and getting oil.
Hold on, we're getting breaking news that the Berlin Wall is being destroyed.
Apparently, the Berlin Wall is being broken down with picks and hammers by many people. There's chaos and joy in the air as Germans are being freed. Well, that's all we have for tonight. Tune in tomorrow for more developments on this breaking story.
From all of us at JVLJ News, have a good night.